despite it not being my fault. I've partial paralysis. Other in-law freely throws insults my way.
Mr. Azure, I'm not just lazing around home, touching the computer all day without working. You're such a useless daughter-in-law. I swear. So,
She might not understand, but this is my job now.
then you can't even have kids, can you?
Anaturi's fine. I leave just as you wish. My name is Alice. I am 32. I guess you could say I am a novelist. I started writing in my 20s and have been publishing books under a pseudonym. Lately, they have finally started selling, and my income is becoming stable. My husband, Nick, is 35 and works at a publishing house. I met him during a meeting about the book adaptation of a novel I had serialized in a magazine for young women. We've been married for almost 2 years now, but no kids yet. It's not that we don't want children, but if they're not given to us, so be it. Late after we got married, I received several serialization offers, and the sales of my book started to rise, making me busy with bookstore promotion campaigns. It wasn't exactly the right time to be thinking about making babies, but considering our ages, I don't want to wait too long because pregnancy can be harder as you get older. Now that my work has settled a bit, I do find myself wanting a child. Since I write from home, I can continue to work while pregnant, consulting with my health as needed. It's easier since I'm not commuting to an office. Nick and I live with his parents in his childhood home. The mother-in-law, Claire, is 58 and works at a supermarket near the in-laws' house. Father-in-law, Undrik, is 60, and it seems he's set to retire from his company this year. Nick is an only child, so living with Kendrick and Claire was a condition of our marriage. At Secretion, I didn't mind leaving my hometown or living with them, and agreed to it as long as I could continue my writing. The in-laws' house is a somewhat old 2-story wooden building, and we live upstairs. The stairs might have met the building standards back then, but they're pretty steep compared to newer houses, and they are scary enough that you have to be careful going up and down. It's not a completely separate household, but we're supposed to interfere as little as possible in each other's lives. It's not a completely separate household, but we're supposed to interfere as little as possible in each other's lives. That within a month, I was treated entirely like a housekeeper. Them up before everyone else to clean, and I start preparing breakfast before anyone else wakes up. Nick says Claire never made breakfast when he was little, but it seems she expects it from me. Innocently, the in-laws are thrilled to have a warm meal in the morning. And first, I thought it was okay if it made them happy, but it's unbearable to do it every day. After all, it takes away from my time for housework and cuts into my sleep if I want to get my work done. That's why some mornings are hard to get up. And still, Claire says, at least you work from home, right? It's not much different from being a homemaker. Everyone else works outside, so doing that much won't bring divine punishment. She doesn't lift a finger to help. So I work from home, but I'm not playing around. Sometimes I struggle with writing ideas, and sometimes I need to go out for a change of scenery. Thus are even while doing household chores, my mind is always running at full speed. It's frustrating not being understood by the in-laws I live with. From the beginning, Kendrick and Claire's only concern was whether I would produce an heir. Alice, how old are you again? 30, right? If only you were a bit younger, like Claire would say, without batting an eye. Kendrick, too. Hurry up and show me your grandchild's face. If you want, I could even lend a hand. He'd say things that sounded almost like sexual harassment. And Nick, you could have any young lady you want. I wonder why you ended up with an unsuccessful novelist. I can't help but think how someone can speak so freely about another person's job without knowing anything about it. It was when I was feeling down from these remarks that Nick approached me to talk about living expenses.
That's sad the publishing companies had a slump too. Plus my salary's getting cut. You've been making more lately, right? Can you help out a bit?
Nick told me that the in-laws' house was built by his grandpa, but because the land value skyrocketed over the years, the inheritance tax was a hefty sum. They had to take out a loan to pay it off, and they still owe money on top of the monthly bills and yearly property tax. It's just too much for Kendrick and Claire's income to handle. Since Nick's income was the most stable, he'd been covering it, and they'd asked him not to move out of the in-laws his heathen before he got married. Being treated like a housekeeper and constantly berated. I honestly didn't want to agree. I can pay the money if necessary, but can't we live apart? I can't take it anymore. I turned Nick down with those words.
What time do you? I'm the oldest son and the eldest. It's impossible.
Nick said, looking sorry. I don't dislike Nick, but the thought of divorce began to cross my mind, unable to bear living with Kendrick and Claire any longer. However, I immediately dismissed the idea. After 2 years of marriage, Claire started to openly berate me for not having children. At first, I could laugh it off, but now my patience is running thin.
Constant as ours. As don't you have kids yet? And maybe a daughter-in-law over 30 just won't do. It's some stuff. Maybe there's something wrong with you.
I have my health checks every year and gynecological exams too. There's nothing wrong with my body. But lately, I've been concerned about Nick's late returns. At the lovemaking that used to happen several times a week when we first got married has now become very infrequent. Thus, during the day, I'm busy catching up on housework, and I had to cut down on sleep to get everything done, which left me with little time for Nick, and I feel bad about that. But whenever possible, I've tried to respond to Nick's advances, even initiating at times. Lately, even when Nick comes home early and I make the move, he would say, "Sorry, I'm just tired. Maybe I'm getting old. Not tonight's not engaging." With the years ticking by since we've been married, I wish Nick would agree to get tested too if I don't get pregnant soon. But I couldn't bring myself to suggest it. I didn't want to seem like I was blaming him. I'm fed up with Kendrick and Claire's daily gripes about us not having a child. And as I'm approaching my mid-30s, I heard it gets harder to conceive, which makes me anxious. One morning, I overslept by accident and heard Claire yelling from downstairs. I was so sleep-deprived from the daily chores and worked late at night that I just couldn't wake up. In a panic, I jumped out of bed and tried to run down the stairs with my mind still foggy. I slipped and tumbled all the way down. I think a loud noise echoed throughout the house, but I had no idea what had happened. Next thing I knew, I was in an ambulance. I could hear the paramedics talking, but couldn't make out the words. Every part of me hurt, and I couldn't move. I felt my consciousness slipping away. When I woke up, I was in the hospital's ICU, laid up in bed, connected to all sorts of machines. It was like a scene from a medical drama, but it felt so unreal. The diagnosis was a compression fracture of the hip. They suffered nerve damage, and now I can't feel anything below my waist. It's like this isn't even my body anymore. The doctor said that even with a rehabilitation program, I probably won't recover, and I'll have to live in a wheelchair for the rest of my life. That realization just plunged me into darkness. A month later, my fractures healed, but the severe nerves wouldn't reconnect. Actually, I remained paralyzed from the waist down and had to move back to my in-laws' house after being discharged. I got a certificate for my paralysis and received a disability ID card. I never imagined this would be me. If someone pushes me, we can get around in a wheelchair, but my in-laws' house is old and cramped, impossible to navigate. My husband and I moved into Kendrick and Claire's first-floor room while they took the second floor. But Claire said, useless and bedridden, taking us old folks upstairs. What a terrible daughter-in-law. He felt so helpless and frustrated. Knowing the fall down the stairs wasn't my fault, tears just wouldn't stop. Luckily, my job is writing novels, which I've always done from home, so I can still write from bed. I switched to submitting my manuscripts electronically, so I don't have to hand-deliver them or meet with editors unless it's absolutely necessary. They can come to me. Resuming work was a relief, but Kendrick and Claire don't seem to understand. All day just playing on the computer in bed. Must be nice.
They're mocks me. Not only can't you bear an air, but you're bedridden, a burden, practically trash.
Kendrick scoffs.
Those you can't do household chores, can't have kids, a daughter-in-law who's no use to anyone might as well leave.
Claire snaps without a pause. Then one day, Nick said something unbelievable.
Hey, let's get a divorce.
I was stunned, disbelieving.
Hey, with your condition, kids are out of the question, right? I can't live with a woman can't have them.
The shock was like a blow to the head, worse than being paralyzed. I was too heartbroken to even cry. The next day, Claire said to me, "You're divorcing my son, huh?" Thank goodness. It's miserable for him to be with a woman who can't have kids. I hated the look on Claire's face as she said this while laughing. It would have been easier if he had just died when he fell down the stairs. Is Claire serious? I started to get scared thinking about what might happen if I don't leave soon. If something happens, I can't move easily because I can't control my body, and there's no one on my side at my in-laws' house. I contacted my disability support coordinator to urgently find me a new place to live. Luckily, I found a new place to move into quite quickly and was able to breathe a sigh of relief. It's a barrier-free one-bedroom rental apartment. I wanted to be as far from my in-laws' house as possible, but unfortunately, it was just in the next town. Still eager to leave the in-laws' house as soon as possible. I decided to move in right away. The to divorce mediation with Nick hadn't started yet, but I wanted to ensure my safety first. I decided to have the government official come over while my in-laws were out and proceed with the moving process in secret. I didn't even know there was such a helpline for domestic violence. But since my parents lived far away and I had no relatives nearby, it was a relief. There was also the fact that I had defied my parents' objections to become a novelist, so I couldn't rely on my family. I set the moving date, and during a weekday when everyone was away, I had my belongings moved to the apartment, and I was transported there by a welfare vehicle. Just living alone in the apartment, I asked for a helper to assist with my daily life.
Hello! Nice to meet you.
The helper introduced by the office was named Stella and seemed a bit older than Claire, but was energetic and cheerful. She used to work in a high position in a big company, but her husband became bedridden with a severe illness. She gave up her career for caregiving, retiring about 5 years ago.
Well, my husband passed away last year. Thankfully, he didn't suffer much.
She spoke with a bright smile, but her eyes seemed somewhat sad. She decided to make use of her caregiving experience, got a helper certificate, and has been working hard. No wonder she seemed so powerful. Just being around her made me feel like I could get energized.
Hey, Dotleets. I heard you're a novelist. What kind of stuff do you write? Tell me.
Thanks when Stella asked. I told her my pen name. To my surprise, she exclaimed, "What? Alice wrote those. I read them. Hey, when you buy a book, can I get your autograph?" She was so delighted she looked like she might jump for joy. "Okay, when my new book comes out, I'll give you a copy." I was happy to have a reader close by.
Alice, your divorce mediation isn't done yet, is it? My son just started his own law practice and is looking for work. How about it? Can you let him handle your case? I had told her most of the circumstances of my move, but I was surprised her son was a lawyer.
Please, I'd appreciate your help. Besides having been in my in-laws' house with no one to take my side, the appearance of someone reliable was reassuring.
It's unfortunate you're disabled, but you have your novels. Alice, it was coming for readers like me. Let's keep it up.
I couldn't stop the tears. I won't be defeated by something like this. That's what I thought. Sure, I'll trust the mediation to you, but is there anything else I can do?
Well, after thinking for a bit, Stella said, your testimony alone would be fine. Alice, but we need a bit more. If your husband or Claire calls, how about recording it?
Indeed, it would be wise to keep a record of any communications from Nick or Kendrick. Thank you. I'll give the voice recording feature on my mobile phone a try.
I felt a little relieved, as if a weight had been lifted off my chest.
From that day on, my mobile phone was bombarded with notifications of incoming calls from my in-laws' house from morning to night. Even though I hadn't completely unpacked yet, I decided to leave it be for a while. Besides, I wasn't in the mood to have a calm discussion with Kendrick, Claire, or Nick just yet. After a week of moving into the apartment, I finally felt ready to answer one of the many calls. Of course, I had the recording feature turned on.
Loud.
I had barely spoken when Claire's shrill voice echoed in my ear.
Worried, are you? Thanks for the concern. So I suppose.
Claire's voice had a panicked tone as she questioned me.
I left because it seemed like the best thing to do. Isn't that what you wanted? My reply was dripping with sarcasm.
Claire's voice was turning into a wail of desperation.
I'm useless, right? You don't need me, do you? The only time when I continued to respond icily.
For a long time, I'd been paying most of the living expenses, but it seemed Claire hadn't noticed.
Well, my current income averages about, $20,000 a month. I guess,
When I revealed my monthly income, Claire sounded surprised, but it was too late now.
I plan to discuss the divorce with Nick, so it's none of your concern anymore. I said decisively, and Claire raised her voice on the other end of the phone.
Said Claire had let it slip, and I hadn't missed it.
What did you say? As now, as I began to speak,
Claire had raised her voice on the other end of the phone.
Oh, that was nothing. Anyways, I'm in trouble here. I'm back home.
Claire denied it, but I had recorded the entire conversation.
I understand. I've recorded this conversation, and we'll use it for the upcoming lawsuit if that's okay with you.
I spoke in a business-like manner. There was no room for sympathy anymore. They had been planning something with my life insurance, which meant I had more than just the divorce to discuss.
I ain't just wait. I'm sorry. I'll apologize, so please don't sue me.
Claire's screams came through the phone speaker, but I mercilessly hung up. The next day, Stella arrived with a man in a suit.
Alice, this is my son, Scott.
The man introduced as Scott bowed politely and greeted me. He looked to be about Nick's age. He had recently left the law firm he worked at to start his own.
I've taken the liberty of conducting an investigation into Nick's conduct.
Scott pulled out a large envelope from his bag, placing several photos and documents in front of me.
It appears Nick has been having an affair with a woman from his workplace. Do you recognize this woman?
I recognize her indeed. When we met the new recruit at the planning meeting for the new series introduced by Nick, I had no idea it would lead to this. The reason for his late return became annoyingly clear. I had informed Scott about the call from Claire yesterday and let him listen to the recording. I wanted to know his legal opinion. After listening, Scott closed his eyes, deep in thought. This could suggest insurance fraud. he said, opening his eyes and furrowing his brow sternly. Just then, the doorbell chimed.
Oh, I'll get it. Yes, who is it? Oh, please wait a moment.
She sounded flustered, but who could it be? Stella asked me. Elise, it's Nick. What do you want to do? It seemed like a good time with the lawyer there, so I said, please let him in. I pulled... Stella passed on my message. Nick appeared, looking utterly drained.
Alice, why did you suddenly disappear? I was worried.
He spoke as if relieved. It's impressive you found this place, considering I kept it secret. I locked eyes with Nick as I said it.
I couldn't get the information from the hospital or in the office, so I had to ask around before I finally found you.
Nick sounded pleased, but his words no longer reached my heart. Thank you for looking, but you have a young and cute girlfriend. Don't you?
We broke up. It turned into a rumor at the office and she quit. I had to take responsibility.
Nick's voice was pitiful, but I couldn't care less. Self-inflicted woes. So what? A chase after her? She's likely to give you children. That would be just right for you. I spoke my mind clear and sharp.
It might be transferred, and there's not enough money from my parents' house. It's tough. I was hoping you'd help. Please come back. I beg you.
Nick pleaded with deep remorse. What a pathetic man. It's embarrassing to think I was once his wife. With a phone call from Claire, suspicions of insurance fraud had been raised. So please discuss this with Scott, the lawyer here, along with our divorce mediation. I introduced Scott, who stood beside the bed, to Nick. Nick was stunned, motionless, then eventually left the room supported by Scott. Half a year passed, and my divorce from Nick was finalized. He'd been involved with his affair partner for over a year. Just with irrefutable evidence, no room for argument, my demands for compensation were fully acknowledged. Hendrik and Claire faced police interrogation under suspicion of insurance fraud. Nick, involved in my life insurance policy, was also questioned for his involvement in the case. The beneficiary of the insurance was Nick, planning to use it to pay off debts and living expenses. Ultimately, the entire in-law family was charged with attempted insurance fraud, avoiding jail but receiving probation. Kendrick lost his retirement benefits due to this, and Claire was fired from the supermarket. Nick, though on probation, was laid off and now works day labor from morning till night. And to pay off past debts, my compensation, and the costs for my injury and treatment, the in-laws' house was sold. The land was valuable, but after all payments, not a penny was left. Despite all our efforts, I heard they were still short on cash and had to continue paying up debts while living together in a cheap apartment. My novel has not only been published in print, but also started to be distributed around. My novel has not only been published in print, but also started to be distributed as an ebook, leading to increased sales despite the so-called publishing recession. I'd become quite accustomed to submitting my work via computer, and the opportunities to interact with readers online have grown. On a personal note, I've started dating Scott. I had assumed he was married because he had a popular, dapper air about him, but surprisingly, it turned out he's single. He's been so focused on studying for the bar exam since college that he didn't have time for relationships. Stella teased me but also gave her blessings. It's sad that I've become paraplegic, but I'm determined not to give up and to keep fighting. Later, it worked and my son and his wife panicked. Get out already! Yeah! Give us this house already. I can't believe this is happening in my own house. But if you really want this house, I'll give it to you. Just you wait and see. My name is Kathy Smith. I just turned 60 this year. I got divorced when I was young. My ex-husband was a heavy drinker, and he used to verbally and physically abuse me. When he started to raise his hand against our children, I served him with divorce papers. After that, I single-handedly put our 2 children through college. Now, I continue to work in flower arrangements, a job I've always enjoyed. Also, I've started online lessons a few years ago and have been enjoying the new interactions. My oldest son, Isaac Max, who has always lived at home, married a woman 2 years older than him. I thought that they would move out, but they asked to live with me. Since there was no particular reason to refuse, I agreed to live together, the 3 of us. My eldest son's wife, Anna, was quiet and not good at housework. She started learning it from me, and I thought she was a good girl. But now her initial image is gone, and her true nature is fully exposed. In front of me, she talks bad and has a foul attitude. But in front of my son, she acts like a quiet and good wife. The housework she learned, she only does laundry for her clothes. But said release, the rest is left undone. This is supposed to be the house where I've lived for many years, but somehow I'm treated like an intruder. Yet I am somehow managing to live with these 2 who show no signs of leaving. But little did I know that day would greatly change my life. Just that day, after finishing my online lesson and taking a break, the house was filled with Max's yelling.
Hey, Ozan. Our shots, man, we're out of shampoo. I can't wash my hair.
But despite being in the bathroom, his yelling reached all the way up to my room on the 2nd floor. He's like this every day, so I'm used to being yelled at by him, not being very quick myself. I went to get the refill shampoo as quickly as I could.
Hear this. I'm sorry I didn't notice.
Flow. It took too long after I called. So I'll make sure to check next time.
I'll be careful next time.
Without saying anything, he snatched the refill shampoo from me. At that moment, I accidentally cut my palm a little deeper with the refill bag. Be complaining here would just add fuel to the fire. Sighing, I took a bandage out of my first aid kit. Then Anna called out to me.
What? You got hurt? You're so clumsy. It's almost dinner time. Itch, isn't the meal ready yet? I'm hungry.
Oh, is it that time already? Would you mind helping out? Anna?
Pho? Why do I have to cook too? I'm not helping, so hurry up and get it done.
Next went to when she was about to go. Axe got out of the shower. He seemed to sense the tension between her and me and interjected.
No, nothing like that. She just asked me to help with dinner because she got hurt.
She started talking to him in a sugary voice, completely different from her previous attitude. I recognized this routine and resigned myself to what was about to happen.
I didn't force her. I just asked if she could help. Asked you wealth. When she declined, I was going to do it myself.
As I was explaining myself, she quickly wrapped her arm around his and began to argue.
She told me she can't cook because she got hurt her hand. And the reason dinner was late was because she was sleeping, not working.
What? Why would you say such a thing? Cha! I hurt my hand, but I never said I can't cook. And I was actually working just before.
Avzanas, whether you said it or not doesn't matter now. The fact that you tried to make Anna cook is true. Okay, what's your foul hack?
With that, he stormed off to the living room, his back to me. At that moment, she stuck out her tongue in satisfaction, as if it was a victory, and then followed him to the living room. He always took her side and never showed any interest in me. And Anna was becoming a real headache. If only he could see her true colors, our lives would be so much different. There were a few times when it seemed like he might catch on. But she was good at hiding her true self and was quite clever with words, which made her a formidable opponent. One day, my biological daughter Lily brought her husband, Garcia, over to visit. That Jake, although younger than Lily, was very responsible and polite. I sometimes think he is too good for Lily, being a young man of such abilities destined to climb the corporate ladder. Welcome, both of you. Please come in. Home sweet home. Feels good to be back, Mom. Anything new? Unlike Max, Lily is not prickly. She always brings a warm and gentle atmosphere around her. As I led Lily and Jake to the living room, I saw Max and Anna sprawled on the couch. As I was about to call out to them, Anna quickly sat up straight and began to fix her appearance. Then, with a fake smile, she began to talk to them in a cloyingly sweet voice.
The compulsive lead a prime anticipation. Luckily, Lily, you look more beautiful than ever. And Jake, as handsome as always. Please, sit down.
Anna then moved away from the couch she'd been sprawled on and headed toward the kitchen. But once Lily and Jake were settled and started chatting with Max, I followed Anna into the kitchen. Anna was in there preparing coffee for everyone but me. It was when I bent down to get some snacks from a lower shelf. She threatened me.
I didn't hear anything about them coming over. Archer, are you messing with me?
I did let you know. Anna, you just chose to ignore it.
Making excuses again? You better watch it.
Just as I was preparing to shield myself, Lily walked in. For the first time, I was taken aback as Anna was about to hit me. Mom, let me help. What's going on? What on earth was that about? Surely. Anna, you weren't trying to hit my mother, were you?
Of course not. I would never do such a thing. I saw something about to fall from the shelf, and I thought it was dangerous, so I was just trying to help, wasn't I? Mile?
Yes, that's right. You saved me. Ina, thank you. I'll take care of the rest of the preparations, so please just relax. And with that, she returned to the living room. But despite her smiling face, her eyes showed no warmth. Recalling the coldness in her eyes and the near miss earlier, I felt a surge of fear grip me. Lily looked up at the shelf, her brow furrowed in apparent confusion, but I was too consumed with fear to take much notice. Noticing my obvious distress, Lily rubbed my back gently. Mom, it's okay. It's just us now, and I'll protect you while I'm here. Her words calmed me, the tension leaving my body. I was grateful Lily had come into the kitchen. If she hadn't, I'm sure Anna would have hit me. Thank you. I feel better now. I managed a weak smile, but Lily saw through it. Knowing you, Mom, you won't tell me even if I ask, but remember this if you ever need help. Don't hesitate to contact me. Actually, I'll be there for you anytime. Lily's sincerity touched me, and they nodded in agreement. After that, nothing else occurred, and the rest of the day passed peacefully. Night fell quickly, and since it was getting late, Lily and Jake decided to head home after dinner. Miss Anna offered to help prepare dinner, but Lily told her to relax and prevented her from interfering. Perhaps because Lily had witnessed her earlier behavior. Anna complied without complaint. This would state with Lily's assistance, dinner preparations went smoothly. Just working together in the kitchen, our conversation flowed freely. It was a pleasant change of pace, and for the first time in a while, I genuinely enjoyed myself. The meal was ready, and we all sat down to eat. My eldest son praised the food. This is delicious. Lily, your cooking is the best. Stop it, you're exaggerating. I'm blushing, but I'm not nearly as good as Mom. What are you talking about? Be comparing your cooking to that Had's? Mom's cooking is awful. I'm just glad we get to eat a decent meal today. Well, he openly insulted me in front of everyone. Only Anna simply smiled and nodded. Upon witnessing this, Lily and Jake stared at them with serious faces. The room went quiet until Lily addressed Max. I think you're misunderstanding something, bro. Mom did all the seasoning. No way, you're lying. I'm not. I just helped with the prep work and a few other things. He glared at me, perhaps feeling tricked. Anna's smile seemed straight, and they felt something bad was about to happen. That's when Jake, who had been quietly observing, decided to speak up. I can totally understand you make that mistake. My mother-in-law's seasoning is similar to Lily's, so it can't be helped, he exclaimed. Thanks to Jake, the tense atmosphere eased a bit. Raging for a while, the conversation stalled, but Jake made an effort to steer it, telling fun stories and prompting everyone to talk. By the time we finished eating, the mood had returned to a cheerful one. After the cleanup was over and Lily and Jake left, a dreadful incident occurred. It was a time of fear reminiscent of my past with my ex-husband. My son snapped, spewing insults unlike his demeanor when Lily and Jake were present. There's no such thing as shame. You know, Anna, Billy and I didn't talk about such a thing. He kicked me suddenly. I tumbled to the floor, paralyzed with pain. But his assault didn't end there. He approached me and kicked me repeatedly, gasping for breath amid the pain. I was desperately trying to protect myself. On chips all the while. Anna was watching with a giddy smile. He said more, but my consciousness was hazy and I couldn't make out his words. Finally, he seemed satisfied and stopped kicking. Seeing my battered state, Anna burst into laughter. Actually, I remembered the terrifying days of domestic violence I experienced with my ex-husband and started crying out of fear. That the sight of this only made them laugh harder.
Oh, why? Are you crying? I want to see an old lady's crying face. You know, I needed to be sorry. As?
Yeah, it's too hard to see. Haha.
I wanted to leave this place as soon as possible, but my body wouldn't obey. Then they twisted the knife further.
Anki stuff quickly, old hag. Leave quickly, old hag. Leave.
Isn't that a bit harsh? But perhaps she doesn't want to be here anymore.
For a moment, my mind went blank. This house is under my name and filled with memories I've gathered over the years. I'd never even considered leaving.
You understand. Pack your things within an hour and get out. This is our house from today. Move quickly, unless you want to be kicked again.
I could only submit to his uncompromising words. And add to me, I started packing. The tears wouldn't stop flowing during the packing because of my frustration. At the same time, a sense of fear for the future and anger towards them arose. For the first time, I felt a strong resentment towards them and swore to fight back. Once I finished packing, they kicked me out without much conversation. As I was wondering what to do, the thought of my daughter, Lily, came to mind. I hailed a cab and, clutching at straws, headed towards Lily's home. When I arrived at her house, there were lights on, and I rang the doorbell. Up through the intercom, I heard her voice. Thutter, when she realized it was me, she quickly opened the door. She looked very surprised, but that was only natural. Just until a moment ago, her mother was unharmed, but now she's got some bruises, carrying a heavy load, so it's no wonder she's surprised. She called Jake and asked him to carry my baggage, supported my body, and led me into the house. She helped me take off my jacket and let me lay on the couch. In my less than ideal condition, she checked the extent of my injuries. Jake brought a blanket to ensure I wouldn't catch a cold and gently laid it on me. Once she finished assessing my injuries, seeing the discoloration on my skin and a large bruise on my head, she suggested taking me to the hospital just to be safe. I declined, saying it was already late and I didn't want to be a bother, but they convinced me to go. Upon reaching the hospital, the examination results revealed that I had multiple fractures. Fortunately, there were no issues with my head, but they suggested that I should be admitted for a few days for observation. I was discharged 3 days later and returned to Lily and Jake's home. I'm really sorry, both of you. I don't know how to apologize for causing you so much trouble. Don't worry about it. We're just glad it wasn't life-threatening. After we're settled in, can we ask what happened? But given the severe injuries, I figured she wouldn't be satisfied with half-truths. So, I disclosed everything, including the verbal abuse and terrible treatment from Max and Anna since we started living together. She listened silently until the end. Her husband was also listening from a distance. After I finished my story, I made a request to the two of them. I hate to ask, but could I stay here just for a few days? I'll find an apartment that I can move into right away, so it's just until then. I begged them tearfully, but to my surprise, their response was unexpected. Mother-in-law, please don't make that face. While you were in the hospital, Anna and I discussed this. Discussed what? We thought we should live together. What? Are you sure? Yes, let's live together. Ever in my wildest dreams did I think they would suggest living together? Overwhelmed with joy, I broke down crying.
Thank you, I said repeatedly.
They comforted me until I stopped crying. Afterward, we decided to live together. The three of us, and Lily and Jake made a proposal. It was to give Max and Anna a taste of their own medicine for all the terrible things they had done.
But is it okay to do something like that to your own brother? Lily, won't you regret it?
I can't forgive those two. I believe they must not be forgiven. Seeing that she had no hesitation, I agreed to the proposal. They asked me to leave the details to them, and I decided to let them handle everything. Around the time the month changed, I received a call from Max.
Hey, we had no idea there's still a mortgage on the house, and what's this? Plus we get summons to court? What's going on?
I never said there was no mortgage. It's your house now. You should be the one to pay.
Hey, you gotta be kidding. You can't afford to pay that much. There's now it's your house you built, you should pay till the end.
I refuse.
You understand the consequences of your actions, right?
It was you who kicked me out, so it's not my business, I said.
MSG'll pay for this.
After he spat out his parting shot, abruptly hung up the phone. Once the call ended, I realized my body was trembling in fear. But believing Lily and Jake were on my side, I reassured myself and managed to calm down. When I later told Lily and Jake about the call, they seemed to have expected it. Was Mom, just ignore his calls from now on. Upon her advice, I obediently followed. Excellent man. I've been receiving calls almost every day from Max and Anna. Obeying her advice, I continued to ignore the relentless calls. One day, they showed up at his place. I was giving an online lesson at the time and was not privy to the initial conversation. After my lesson, I headed to the living room and heard familiar voices. Peeking quietly, I saw Max and Anna begging Lily and Jake.
Please, just lend us a little bit of money.
I'm begging you to.
Lily responded, "How have you been handling your finances up until now? Aren't you contributing even a bit to your household?"
Well, yeah, we were paying our cell phone bills and insurance, but we never gave any money to my mother.
Lily and Jake looked stunned and let out a sigh. So you're saying that Mom was covering all expenses, including utilities and food, and despite that, you treated her like a maid, verbally abused her, and eventually assaulted her and drove her out of her own house. We don't have a single cent to lend to people like you guys.
What do you mean by verbal abuse and assault?
Max hesitated, at which point Jake stepped in.
Billy Clay, I agree with Lily. When we found mother-in-law, she was in a terrible state. Doing had to be hospitalized. There's clearly a crime.
That's why you should leave for today. We have no reason to tell you, and we plan on taking this matter to court. We'll ask for punitive damages for the pain you've caused our mother, so be prepared.
You think you can say whatever you want because we're begging. You're joking.
Max stood up suddenly, filled with anger, and lunged at Lily. Gutch! I was about to step in and opened the living room door, but Jake got in between Lily and Max. Max was effortlessly restrained by Jake and could no longer move. Feeling threatened by Max's loud and aggressive behavior, Lily called the police. But shortly after, the police arrived and took Max and Anna away. Not once they were gone. I rushed over to Lily and held her close.
I'm glad you're okay. Really glad you didn't get hurt.
They both simply smiled in response and treated me kindly to put me at ease. Later, the evidence gathered by a detective and the lawyer Lily and Jake hired ensured we would receive a substantial amount of punitive damages from Max and Anna. We found out then that they had each been having affairs and were in a messy situation. Achin. Now, not only did they have financial issues, but they also had marital problems to face. From my abusive son and his wife, I regained my freedom and started to recover, venturing outside again with a sense of peace. However, this would be considered breaking the court-ordered no-contact rule between us. Every time this happened, later, I bumped into our old next-door neighbor at the supermarket. He told me that Max and Anna were constantly arguing about money and fidelity. Anna's true nature became apparent, and that seemed to be the catalyst for their divorce. Since then, they've put their house up for sale. Now the story turns to my private investigator's findings. Lisa paid Max with his involvement in police matters, lawsuits, and now his divorce seems to have become the talk of his office. Take Max, who had a big ego, quit his job immediately. Hooked by his affair partner, he now works part-time. As homeless, he seems to spend his nights in various parks and abandoned buildings. As for Anna, she had been staying at the home of the man she was having an affair with, but it seems she has recently been dumped. She is now seeking work and live-in jobs, trying to rebuild her life from scratch. Her beloved hobbies such as nail art and other fashionable activities have been forbidden, and she seems to be living a humble life now. As for me, I bought back our old house that had been put up for sale, and after some renovations, I now live there with my daughter, Lily, and her husband, Jack. Since Lily has qualifications in aromatherapy and massage, we decided to open a small shop on the spare land we had when we renovated the house. We've been managing well, not just through online lessons, but also with physical lessons in the shop, selling items, and running a reservation-based aromatherapy massage service. It's a joy being able to do what we love, and even though we renovated it, being able to return to our own home brings happiness every day. Thanks to them who offered to take care of all complex issues like private investigators and lawyers, which is really hard for me to handle, and have been able to achieve our current lifestyle. Scation, I get along well with Lily and Jack, and recently received the delightful news that Lily is pregnant. I can't wait to hold my grandchild in my arms. Looking forward, my life will only become more joyful, and I consider myself very fortunate. I cannot thank them enough. I am truly grateful. I'm Melissa. I've been married for nearly 10 years now, and we're both in our 40s. We don't have any children, and I live with my husband. Cedric is 5 years older than me and works an ordinary white-collar job. I have a part-time job as well, so there's a little financial cushion for the two of us. Since getting married, we haven't had any significant arguments, and I think we've been getting along quite well. However, things have started to get a little complicated recently. It all started when I inherited a condo after my father passed away. I've been told to move into that condo and to hand over my childhood home. My father had bought a new 2-bedroom condo when we got married, and he was living there. It's not a huge place, but it's a stylish condo. The condo where Cedric and I live now is my childhood home. I lived with my father and mother in a 4-bedroom condo until I got married, and then my father gave it to me. I left home once to go to college, but coming back after marriage to a home filled with memories was truly joyous. My mother passed away when I was in college, so my father was living alone in the family home. When we were getting married, he said, "How about living in this condo?" I thought he was suggesting moving in together, but he firmly declined. He probably didn't want to interfere with our newlywed life. Then my father passed away. I inherited the 2-bedroom condo where he had been living. Fortunately, I was able to quickly find a tenant and have them sign a lease. I thought our life would continue just as before. A year passed, and my mother-in-law surprised me with an unexpected proposal during a visit. Why don't we let Jasmine and her kids live in the 4-bedroom condo you are in? It's getting tight where they are now. Jasmine is Cedric's sister and a single mother raising 3 children. They currently live in a 2-bedroom apartment. And sure, the kids were all in elementary school now, and I understood that their place might be tight for a family of 4. However, I had never had a good impression of Jasmine. Every time we met, she looked down on me for not having children. Cedric and I got married just before I turned 30. At that time, she had already tried to outdo me, but it got even worse after I turned 30.
You're 30 and still don't have a single child? No. You still don't have children? I was a woman. Isn't your life over?
Those words were just the beginning. The ultimate insult came when my father passed away.
You're such a disgrace, not letting your father meet his grandchild.
Jasmine is 3 years older than me, and she feels more like a younger sister-in-law than an older sister-in-law. Since in any case, we were technically family, so I wanted to get along, if possible, and I thought I was making an effort. But after hearing those words, I wanted to keep my distance from Jasmine as much as possible. I don't have any siblings, and my only blood-related family was my father. And in the midst of being both mentally and physically exhausted after losing him, she said those words to me without a hint of sympathy. It's impossible not to have a terrible impression after that. I hadn't seen her since shortly after my father passed away, so I never expected such a proposal from my mother-in-law.
She says she'll pay the rent. $500 a month.
She said this with a look on her face, as if to say, "Isn't that a great deal?" I was utterly astonished. Our condo is not that new, but it has been renovated, so the facilities are clean and there are no problems. But to good public transport and being adjacent to a mall, if we were to rent it out, the rent would undoubtedly be over $2,000. $500? I don't know if they're unaware of the marketplace or what, but that's a lot of nerve to mention such a figure when talking about renting a 4-bedroom condo. Since I didn't say anything, my mother-in-law must have taken it as a confirmation and proceeded with the conversation.
Outside side, don't you have a condo that you're renting out now? He too can live there. Is adult or near the lease. He too can move in. Once you're done moving, Jasmine and her family can move in. How many years is the lease? She said...
Cedric, being himself, said, "Oh yeah, that's a great idea. The condo where my father-in-law lived is new and stylish, and it's enough space for the two of us to live in."
Oscar, it seemed like the conversation would just keep moving forward on its own, so he asked, "Aren't we supposed to live?" In reality, my in-laws live in a single-family home, and now it's just my father-in-law and mother-in-law living there. Cedric and Jasmine's rooms aren't even being used. It seemed like it wouldn't be a problem if Jasmine's family moved in. If they wanted to move to a larger place, shouldn't they rely on their parents' home before asking us to move? However, it seems that if they move into my in-laws' home, the children will have to transfer schools. They would need to purchase new school uniforms and other things, so they said it would be a waste of money. I couldn't explicitly say no to my mother-in-law about renting the place to Jasmine, but I told her, "This is where I was born and raised. I can't just decide to leave so easily." We left my in-laws' house without saying anything else that day. Considering that my mother-in-law said, "I'm not saying you have to do it right away," she probably hasn't given up at all. When I got back to the condo, I said to Cedric, "This is my family home, you know? How can you agree to leave so easily?" Cedric seemed surprised, like he hadn't even thought I was angry.
"Wait, but your family home is a condo," he said.
I was truly disappointed with Cedric, who just said that without apologizing. Cedric, who grew up in a single-family home, seems to have a strong impression that a family home must be a standalone house. He doesn't seem to understand how I could consider a condo my family home, since we were raised in different environments. I suppose it's understandable, but a simple word of apology would have been nice. My anger reached a peak and I raised my voice. The condo is my family home. Don't go making decisions about my condo on your own. Cedric seemed displeased when I referred to it as my condo.
What do you mean your condo? We've been married for 10 years. It's our condo. He shouted back, the pure if he hadn't denied that I think of this condo as my family home, if he hadn't resisted renting it to my sister-in-law. I might not have minded Cedric calling it your condo, but now, I couldn't help but feel disgusted when he said, our condo.
After that, we talked about it many times, but we were still at an impasse.
He said Kum never considered my feelings, called me a tingy, stubborn, and malicious.
We both refused to give in, and in the end, we couldn't make any decisions or solve anything for several months. All the while, my mother-in-law would contact us asking, "Have you thought about what we discussed last time?" My mother-in-law and Cedric, who wouldn't support me, were driving me to my limit. Then one day, I got a text from Jasmine, who was finally furious that the matter wasn't progressing.
You don't have kids, so a 2-bedroom condo should be enough. Living with just the two of you in a 4-bedroom condo is a luxury. Just move out.
I hadn't been in touch with Jasmine since my mother-in-law brought up the condo issue, so this was out of the blue. No polite requests to rent, no pleases, just a command to leave. Who does she think she is? Reading the text from Jasmine, I felt foolish for trying to keep things amicable until now. As we talked, the word divorces crossed my mind again and again. Each time, I tried to suppress my emotions, but I knew I was at the end of my tether. At Platteville, I went to the courthouse and picked up divorce papers, then made a call to a certain place. A few days later, I headed to the county clerk's office. When I obtained the copies of the property deeds, I found that the condo I live in and the one I'm renting out are both in my name. Just with this confirmation, I decided to give my husband one last chance. I've told you over and over, I really don't want to rent this condo to Jasmine. It's my family home. Just can't bear to rent it to someone who's looked down on me and said awful things. I want you to tell her not to count on this place either. Cedric's face showed clear annoyance. It was always like this when I brought up the subject. In the past, during arguments with Cedric, I told him everything Jasmine had said to me. I thought by telling him, he would understand why I didn't want to rent to Jasmine. But that didn't happen.
Dietrich even said, but what Jasmine is saying isn't entirely wrong either.
In retrospect, I should have divorced him right then and there. It would have spared me so much distress. But I didn't have the courage to leave someone I'd been with for 10 years, or to be alone as I approached 40. Now it's different. If Cedric rejects my proposal, I'll say goodbye. I had made up my mind, and that was my plea.
You hate moving out of your family home that much? You're just tormenting Jasmine because you hate her. It's your fault for acting in a way that invites disdain, and plus you're just exaggerating. It's not like you've been told anything that bad. I can't understand why you can be so spiteful.
But unaware of my desperate resolve, Cedric said this with a baffled look on his face. I just couldn't understand Cedric, who never once sided with me no matter how many times I told him. Perhaps we can never understand each other anymore. Then please fill this out. With those words, I handed him the divorce papers. I thought he might panic or become agitated, but Cedric simply snorted with a smirk when he saw the divorce papers.
Come on, what's this about? You think threatening to divorce me will make me back down?
Cedric seemed to think I wasn't serious about the divorce. This isn't a threat. I thought I could get along with Jasmine, even if she's just my sit. But now I feel it's impossible. Same with your mother and you. I can't trust you anymore, and there's no love left. It's over. Pack your things and leave now. Without knowing how determined I was about the divorce, Cedric laughed. Anger welled within me, and I spoke my mind. I wanted him to leave as soon as possible.
Esmond and my mom don't necessarily dislike you. Can't you see this is all your fault because you only think about yourself?
Feeling that this was getting us nowhere. I said enough. We can't understand each other anymore. You don't want to understand me, and I don't want to understand you. I can only think of divorce. If you don't sign, I'll file for mediation. I said this coldly.
Cedric yelled, "Enough already," kicked the wall, and stormed out of the house.
He didn't sign the divorce papers or take any of his belongings. It seemed he just wanted to leave the situation behind. Days later, just as I expected.
With a guilty look on his face, he asked, "What should I do?"
Does he think that I'll forgive him if he humbles himself? There's nothing to do at all. Everything's already settled. If you agree to the divorce, sign the divorce papers. If not, I'll file for mediation. Also, I've decided to sell this condo. Yes, I decided to sell my family home. The day I went to court to get the divorce papers, I contacted my father's friend, a Major Allen. I had met Mr. Allen several times since I was young, and he was very close to my father.
Mr. Allen, who came my father's memorial service, gave me his business card, saying, "If you need anything, just ask."
His business card listed the name of his law firm, Atin Aftermeers. Mr. Allen was a lawyer there. Thanks to Mr. Allen introducing me to a judicial scrivener, I was able to smoothly process my father's inheritance. When I consulted him about this matter, Mr. Allen was supportive, advising me to check the ownership of the condo and giving advice for when the divorce might not be agreed upon. I think that's why I could take a strong stand. After Cedric left the house, I resolved to sell the condo. I contacted a real estate agent and told them I wanted to sell. He informed Mr. Allen that the conversation with Cedric had not gone well, that I could not get him to sign the divorce papers, and that he had left the house without settling anything. I asked for his help if it came to mediation.
Cedric, upon hearing that the condo was going up for sale, widened his eyes and, contrary to his previous attitude, let out an intimidating low voice. "What? So you kept saying it's your family home, and now you're selling it? So it wasn't that important after all." Then you could have rented it to Jasmine. You stingy woman.
Gitrim might have lashed out, but I no longer cared what he said. So, I sent him a cold glance. He seemed a bit stiffened, but apparently he wasn't backing down yet.
Don't just decide to sell it on your own. The title may be in your name, but when we divorce, there should be a division of property. This condo was our shared property where we lived, right?
Facing the defiant Cedric, I smugly said, "Too bad. This condo was put in my name by my father just before I got married. Anything I owned before marriage isn't subject to property division. I've already confirmed it with the lawyer. Though it's hard to let go of the family home. I didn't want to increase the bad memories associated with this place by holding on to it. I consulted with Mr. Allen, and once I found out that this condo wouldn't be subject to property division, I was able to decide to sell it right away. Upon learning the truth, Cedric changed his attitude completely, no clinging to me in an unseemly way.
I was wrong. I don't need to rent this place to Jasmine. It's your precious family home. Are you sure you want to sell it? Since you're still living here, you haven't sold it yet, right? Let's not sell it and start over here. I talked to Jasmine and my mother, so let's not divorce or sell the condo.
At this point, I began to wonder why I had been with such a person for 10 years. I was disgusted with myself for having been with him. Don't say nice things now. You never stood by me no matter how many times we talked. It's absolutely impossible for me to start over with you now. Goodbye. Please pack your things and leave as soon as possible. He continued to resist the divorce, so it ended up going to divorce mediation, and I was finally able to part ways with Cedric. Now I am free. I thought being single would be scary, but it's not so bad. I've now purchased a new 2-bedroom condo, and I'm enjoying my life as I please. I woke up to a message from my husband. The contractions have started. The baby is finally coming. The news was about my sister-in-law Mia, who is about to give birth. I don't usually interact much with Maya, but the thought of my soon-to-be niece filled me with excitement. I called my husband, full of anticipation. But contrary to my expectations, he sounded flushed. Don't come to the hospital. What? I'll go to the hospital. Just don't come, okay? He hung up abruptly. My mind was filled with questions. What's going on? Why would he push me away like that? Little did I know, an unexpected situation awaited me a few hours later. My name is Sophia. I work for a fairly large stationery company. I've been married to William for 2 years. We're not as passionate as we were in the beginning, but we get along well enough. I just turned 30 the other day. William is older than me, 35 this year. Be considering our ages. I've been thinking it's about time to consider having children. One day, William went to a barbecue with a colleague. I was home alone when the doorbell rang. I opened the door to find my mother-in-law. Lily, sorry for the sudden visit. I was in the neighborhood and thought I'd stop by. Of course, come on in. Thank you. The apartment where William and I is about an hour from the in-laws. He's using the highway. It's not too far, but we don't see Lily very often. I didn't see Lily very often because we were close enough to see each other if I wanted to. Occasionally, like today, Lily would drop by while shopping, or we would visit if we had time. I made coffee and served it with some snacks Lily brought. Lily took a sip of her coffee and said, "Thank you," with a pleased expression. Guess what? Maya told me she's pregnant. What? Axti, Maya is. Yes, surprising, isn't it? Maya is William's sister and my sister-in-law. She got married a year before a use and now lives out of state. Whenever we meet at family gatherings, Maya always greets me warmly. I find her to be a lovely sister, even if she's my sister-in-law. Especially lately, as I've been thinking about having children. Maya's pregnancy feels even more relatable. I have no feelings of jealousy, just pure happiness for her. Maya and her husband have been married for 3 years now. The timing seems right, doesn't it? Absolutely. They've enjoyed their time as a couple, and now it's time for a child. I remember going through that phase too. I'd been thinking about kids as well. I'm already 30. Don't worry about it. Having kids near 30s is not uncommon these days. Just go at your own pace. Chloe, thank you. We've never had the kind of mother-in-law, daughter-in-law drama you see on TV. Lily always greets me with a smile, never pressuring me about having kids. Thanks to her, I've been able to take my time thinking about starting a family. That night, when William returned from the barbecue with his colleague, I brought up my conversation with Lily. Hey, William. Well, Lily came by today, and guess what? Vaya is pregnant.
Really? Vaya is.
Yes. Can you believe it? Adjers were going to be an uncle and aunt. I wonder if it's a boy or a girl. Exciting, right?
Yeah, it is exciting to think about the baby's gender.
This William's face broke into a smile, tinged with happiness. I felt a slight unease but assumed he was just happy about the news. At that moment, I genuinely thought so. If he could be this happy about his sister's baby, he should be thinking seriously about having one with me too. I couldn't help but voice my thoughts.
I want a baby too. Oh, sorry, it just slipped out. I'm already 30 and it's about time, considering our ages.
Oh, right. Sorry. I hadn't really thought about it.
I apologized, and William said nothing more. I had hoped for words like, "I want one too. I want you to have my child," but they never came. Maybe it's understandable that William isn't quite ready for that step. For the past 6 months, he's been coming home late, working overtime almost every day. I always come home after the date has changed. He even works on weekends sometimes. But with his busy schedule, he probably doesn't have the time to think about kids. I took it that way and didn't bring up the subject again. 3 months later, William was out for work on his day off. Willie called and said she'd bring lunch over.
Lily, you didn't have to go to the trouble.
It's fine. I had some shopping to do nearby.
I was planning to have a simple lunch alone, so this is a treat.
Good then. As we ate the lunch Lily brought, We chatted about this and that. When the conversation turned to Maya's pregnancy, I asked Lily something that had been on my mind.
By the way, do you know the gender of Mia's baby yet?
Yes, she just told me 3 days ago. It was the first I'd heard.
Oh, so you know then.
Yes, it's a girl.
A girl. That's so cute. Girls' clothes are adorable.
They can be expensive though. So LL. But really, as long as the baby is healthy, that's what matters.
Absolutely. I hope Maya's baby is born healthy.
Let's all look forward to it. According to Lily, he plans to give birth at a hospital near Lily's house. And after the birth, she'll stay at the in-laws' house for a while, so we'll have a chance to visit.
I'll come by when things have settled down.
With that, a pleased Lily left. 2 weeks later, I ended up working late and didn't get home until after 11 p.m. Just as I got out of the bath, William came home.
Welcome back. Naturally, Drew. You're late again, huh?
And you too. Sophia, just out of the bath?
Yeah, I had to work late, unusually.
So it's good you're here. There's something I want to ask you.
What is it?
William showed me his phone screen and asked, which one do you think is best?
Displayed on various types of baby cribs. There are so many options, he said, his face seemingly glowing as he showed me the screen.
That's when I felt a strange sense of discomfort. If William is looking at baby cribs now, it must be a gift for Maya. That's not out of the question. But William is usually frugal, even with me. He keeps my birthday gifts strictly under $100. So it didn't make sense that he'd consider buying a crib for Maya that costs over $500. I cautiously spoke up as he happily browsed through the cribs. Is this crib a gift for me?
Oh yeah, it is. She's my sister after all. I should do something nice for her.
Wouldn't it be best to ask Maya directly? People have preferences for sizes or specific features.
Ah, you're right. I'll ask Maya directly.
Yeah, that's probably best. William seemed a bit rushed, and something about the way he spoke felt off. From that day on, my sense of unease about his behavior grew. Whenever he had free time, William was on his phone researching baby items. Not just the typical baby clothes for a gift, but pricier items like baby baths, strollers, and car seats. Normally, those are decisions for the parents-to-be. So why was William so keen on researching baby items? It puzzled me. One day, William came home with a shopping bag from a well-known baby clothing brand.
Today, he said, happily showing off the newly purchased clothes. Sophia, look at this. Isn't that super cute?
Yeah, it's really cute. But it's for a boy, right? What William had bought was a onesie for newborns featuring dinosaur illustrations. It was clearly for a boy. Of course, kids can wear whatever they like, but giving a gift meant for the opposite gender would be considered rude. When I pointed this out,
Ah, right. Aya's having the glow.
Why did you say it like you didn't know?
No, I knew. I just thought this was cute.
Nah, William quickly put the baby clothes back in the bag and left the living room. This is a gift for Maya, right? Then why didn't he gift wrap it? He just took it out of the bag and showed it to me. I had questions about William's puzzling behavior, but chose not to ask anymore. Be months later, William was working on his day off. While I was cleaning the house, a message from William popped up on my phone. It was news that Maya had gone into labor. She's in labor? The baby is finally coming? I was so flustered, I didn't know what to do with myself. Filled with excitement, I called William. Hello, William. Is Maya giving birth? Which hospital?
Yeah, looks like it. The hospital is a university hospital in the next state.
What? Isn't that really far from your parents' house?
What? Isn't that really far from your parents' house?
Oh well. I can't come back for a while.
Why not?
Come on, it's obvious. Labor can take hours, and even after that.
I see. But are you going to be there from start to finish?
Yeah. Actually, it seems like the baby might come soon.
What, already? Then I'll head over there right away.
Lily often told me that Maya would love to see me, so if the timing worked out, I should visit. But contrary to my expectations, he seemed rushed.
That'll come to the hospital.
Just stay home.
You can't do anything here anyway.
I might not be able to help, but I want to congratulate Maya.
I'll be at the hospital, so just stay home. Don't come, okay?
He hung up abruptly. My mind was filled with questions. What's going on? Why did he have to refuse like that? I waited for a few hours, but there was no news of the baby being born. But curious, I decided to call Lily. Lily sounded as calm as ever.
Lily, how's Maya doing right now?
Tim, Maya, she just went for a walk.
A walk during labor?
Lily laughed at my words. Then she told me something unexpected. Then Sophia, the labor is still a ways off.
What? The due date is next month. Maya just came over last week.
Don't worry. I'll let you know as soon as labor starts. William too, of course. At that moment, the worst-case scenario flashed through my mind. The late nights he claimed were due to overtime, the expensive baby cribs he was looking at, and, above all, lying to me about his sister going into labor on a different day. All the discomfort I felt suddenly connected. At the same time, a surge of anger welled up inside me. So that's what's been going on. I had believed that William, of all people, wouldn't do this. Well, no, I'm gonna make his life a living hell. As I took a deep breath, Miss Lily called my name from the other end of the phone. I told Lily the truth.
Lily, I think William is cheating on me.
What? What do you mean?
I can't say for sure, but he sent me this message that he's accompanying Maya in the hospital because she's in labor.
You're saying he might have a son with the woman he's cheating with?
Probably yes.
A heavy silence filled the air. Thanks Lily was the first to speak. And Shalif Halbright, Sophia, I'm coming over.
What? Be now. Nelly?
Just wait. Sigh. The call ended, and an hour later, Lily and Maya arrived at my house. Via two. We heard William's causing a lot of trouble, so we came.
I'm sorry. They're pregnant, and it must be hard. Not at all. I can't give birth in peace unless we put that idiot William in his place.
Fia grinned triumphantly, and Lily smiled confidently next to her. The presence solidified my resolve. A few hours later, William came home and looked shocked to see the three of us.
Why?
His face turned pale as if he was about to faint.
Why? That's my line. I'm not in labor.
Why?
Who did you confuse me with? There's no way you could confuse that, right?
Well, that's...
Maya snatched William's phone and looked at the photos. There were multiple pictures of a woman who had just given birth, holding a newborn. Hutch Lily confronted William in a low voice. William, what is this?
Nah.
Some excuse is right. If you say it's a misunderstanding, I'll call this woman right now.
Please don't. I haven't told you I'm married.
You. How much trouble do you have to cause people to be satisfied? William was trembling, his face ashen. I handed him the pre-prepared divorce papers.
I can't sign this now. I'll contact you later about the alimony.
Wait, Sophia, I don't intend to divorce you.
Don't joke with me. You have a child with another woman, and you expect us to continue as a couple. What you've done is unforgivable. You sign the divorce papers and apologize, you scum.
I was so angry. I forgot Lily and Maya were there. In the end, William signed the divorce papers in tears, but with the help of Lily and Maya. I consulted a lawyer about the situation, including Harper, the woman he cheated with, and we had a proper discussion. As a result, I demanded compensation from both William and Harper. Harper, who didn't know William was married, had half of her compensation paid by William. Additionally, Harper demanded child support from William. He apparently proposed remarriage to her, but she flatly rejected him, saying, "You just pay the money, you scum." It's all his fault. All I can say is, serves you right. As for me, I still have a relationship with Lily and the others. Mia safely gave birth, and I recently gave her a baby gift. At that time, BSN, even if you cut ties with that idiot William, you're still you. Sophia and this child is still your niece. I can't express how much her kindness saved me. If Lily and Maya hadn't come that day, things wouldn't have ended so cleanly. But with gratitude in my heart, I plan to slowly repay their kindness. A middle school grad was almost crying, but when my husband told her the truth,
You could belong in a fancy hotel like that, being a dropout and all.
Alice always nasty to me for some reason. Her snide remarks are alive and well today. I hold back my feelings as usual and take it quietly. When I bow my head in silence, my husband quickly retorts. The room goes ice cold in an instant. My name is Maya Ingram. Summer break is just around the corner as spring passes by. The shouts from the schoolyard and the classrooms chatter. The story the teacher reads feels like a lullaby. Big white clouds float in the blue sky. Is it good luck to spot a contrail? I was almost drifting off to sleep, thinking about it. I like English literature class. Interesting to hear different stories.
Miss Ingram, could you please answer question 3?
Question 3. What was the answer again? I dig deep into my memory but can't find it, feeling useless.
Sorry, what was the answer to this one?
I ask softly. The teacher looks disappointed, and my friends tease me with a smile. I've done it again. I like English literature class, but I never said I was good at it. And I'm not good at sports, especially sprinting, no matter how hard I try. I can't run fast. I've practiced sprinting the 50 yards in front of my house with my dad, but it didn't help much. My dad is fun and kind. We're not wealthy, but my loving mom and dad always put me first. Distant and our meals aren't fancy, but we enjoy family bonding over dinner, sharing our day. Wanting to help out my family financially, I decided to drop out of school and get a job. As the leaves started to change color, I became a working adult. And my first paycheck will go towards a nice dinner with mom and dad. That was my first goal as a working adult, a promise I made under the changing leaves. Just from day one, I'm constantly learning new things, and before I know it, the day is over. My coworkers are fun, and my seniors are kind. Especially Martin, who is 4 years older, takes good care of me and is someone I look up to. Finally, on payday, I take mom and dad to a nice steakhouse that Martin recommended. It's our first time in such an upscale place, and we're nervous, but the delicious food and cozy atmosphere soon put us at ease.
Mia, I'll attend you.
My dad even starts to cry out loud. Tom just laughs at the scene.
Let's come back.
We leave the restaurant with those words. From then on, we often come here for mom and dad's birthdays and anniversaries. Meanwhile, at work, there's still a lot to learn. I'm far from being as competent as Martin. Summer passes, autumn comes, and then the cold winter. The flowers bloom, the sun blazes, and the leaves fall again. And once more, a season of hellos and goodbyes. Martin is retiring, it seems. My admiration for him scattered like fallen leaves, never to be conveyed. As those memories started to fade, I found myself in a cafe during a work break one early summer. The aroma of fresh coffee and trendy background music enveloped me. Scanning the quiet cafe, I spotted a man. The dag, then posture. That was the Croce. It's been years, maybe 3, but I could never forget that figure I admired. Mighty. Before I knew it, I had spoken out loud. He turned, surprised, and walked over, equally astonished. Martin also frequents this cafe during his breaks. We caught up briefly and exchanged contact information. That encounter in the cafe led to more conversations and outings. After several dates, we started a relationship. Being with someone I once admired was beyond my wildest dreams, but it was real. Martin is busy with work, so we don't meet often, but those rare moments are special. They fly by and they whirl. The ginkgo trees are beautifully tinged with yellow. Walking under the trees, feeling the seasons, hasn't changed since I started working. I'm beat. I collapse on the sofa as soon as I get home. It's been nearly 10 years, and my body still hasn't adjusted. Lately, there's been more to learn at work, so it can't be helped.
Mom doesn't scold me. Instead, she says, "You're up early every day." Good job, and sets the dinner table.
Tonight's dinner is fried chicken, bothered by the smell of my favorite dish. I quickly change and help set the table. That's right, I can't afford to slack off. I have important news for Mom and Dad. As I finish setting the knives and forks, it comes home.
All fried chicken today.
He quickly changes and rushes to the table, his first words upon arriving home filled with joy. It's been a while since all three of us had dinner together, due to Dad's business trips and my night shifts.
Let's see.
At that cue, we all say grace and start eating. Mom's fried chicken is the best. As I savor the fried chicken, I snap back to reality. Mom, Dad, I something important to tell you. They look at each other and then at me. It's rare for me to be so formal, so they seem concerned. Seeing their faces, I can't help but smile and show them my left ring finger. Not. I'm getting married. Don't look so worried. I smile. At their faces relax instantly, and Dad starts firing questions. Who is he? Where is he from? What's he like? How long have you been dating? Did Mom know? Why was Dad the last to know? Maya. Just as I expected. I had told Mom about him before, so she looked genuinely happy. Next to her, Dad was making such a fuss that Mom and I had to calm him down.
Okay. Sorry for keeping it a secret.
I won't seduce him easily.
But even as he says that, he looked relieved. Soon after, preparations for moving began. All right, that's everything. I seal the last cardboard box with tape and stack it in the corner. I managed to pack everything into just 10 boxes, fewer than I expected. Along the way, I found old albums from middle school and diaries I'd written. I took a trip down memory lane, laughing and reminiscing. Getting sidetracked is part of any big cleanup. Mom found this stuffed animal she bought me years ago. She looked at it nostalgically and said, "Take this with you," as she packed it into a box. As we packed and shared old stories, the room emptied out in no time. Mom was a bit worried about me moving into my husband's family home right after leaving ours. After all, I'd never practiced housework or cooking.
Don't worry. Martin is kind. It's a bit lonely when he's not home, but I'll manage.
I assured her cheerfully. Little did I know what lay ahead.
Don't you? Don't put that there, said Alice. Barton's sister.
Alice had been cold and harsh with me ever since I arrived. But only with me. I thought it must be because I wasn't good at managing things, so I doubled down on housework and my job. Thus, on my days off, I'd go to Mom's to learn some tasty recipes. Mom always welcomed me with my favorite fried chicken. Books that linked to learn cooking was just an excuse, I was really going for the comfort of home and Mom's cooking.
How's your new home? Are you managing okay? I'm worried, Mom said, looking genuinely concerned.
I lied without thinking. Everyone's kind, and they even compliment my cooking. In reality, my mother-in-law and father-in-law were good to me. I'd even learned some of my mother-in-law's signature dishes. I tried various approaches to housework, always thinking of how to be more efficient. But Alice kept finding faults and attacking me with cold words. Every day was like a cat and mouse game. However, my daily efforts weren't in vain. I'd become quite good at housework, earning compliments from my father-in-law, mother-in-law, and Martin. When I served the clam chowder I'd learned from my mother-in-law, it was a big hit with Martin and my father-in-law. It disappears quickly, but Alice's attitude never changed. In fact, it felt like she was escalating, becoming even more confrontational. As I was getting ready to go out, she suddenly burst into my room.
Could you at least knock?
I snapped. But Alice didn't care. She just dumped some work on me. I was pretty irritated but finished the task anyway. As I was fixing my appearance at the entrance, she came all the way there to say,
Where are you going in such cheap clothes?
I was really upset and wanted to snap back. But I held it in, faked a smile, and left the house. I didn't want to make a scene and deal with the aftermath. Even though I was doing my best, comments like that made me feel like giving up. When she started criticizing things unrelated to housework or my job, it really started to affect me mentally. I was reaching my limit. I wanted to talk to Martin about it, but he was coming home tired every day from work. I didn't want to add to his worries. I wanted him to focus on his job. So, I just waited silently for time to pass. Just when I was getting used to Alice's cold demeanor,
Martin looked at me and said, "Sorry to keep you waiting," and gave me a warm hug.
once the decision was made, everything moved quickly. We planned to go dress shopping and pick out venues for the ceremony and reception over the weekend. I was excited, but that was short-lived. For some reason, Alice came along and started shooting down every idea I had. I'd always dreamed of the perfect wedding dress, and just thinking about it lifted my spirits. I chose a soft white princess-line dress that I had always admired. Martin smiled and said it was very me, so I decided on the spot. It was really lucky that Alice had stepped away to the restroom at that moment. Martin suggested the venue for the reception, and we chose the ceremony location to match. Of course, I agreed.
That fancy hotel might suit Martin, but isn't it a bit much for you? Mia?
Her tone was nasty.
After all, you're just a dropout who's been living in poverty, right? Get out of here, Lake.
She continued as if I were making a fool of myself. I was about to bow my head and endure it when Martin spoke up.
Okay, Alice. That's uncalled for. Besides, this is Maya's hotel.
And the room went silent. Alice seemed taken aback, unable to process the situation. I hesitantly spoke up. An apostrophe. I'm actually the manager of this hotel. I then explained how I had worked hard since dropping out and was eventually promoted to manager. I was embarrassed to talk about it, but Martin stood by my side with a serious look, giving me the courage to speak. When I looked at Alice, she had a regretful expression and started to run away. Burton chased after her and grabbed her arm.
Alice, what's with that attitude?
He quietly confronted her. Had she always been like this? Why was she acting this way? Alice's eyes reddened, and she glared at us.
Why? Because...
She paused as if holding back tears. It seemed like if she continued any longer, tears would come out along with the words. Swallowing down the words and tears.
I can do anything, study, work, sports. But why is there nowhere I mean?
Her voice gradually weakened and faded, feeling uncomfortable. I offered her a handkerchief. Alice snatched it and wiped her tears and nose. After calming down a bit, Alice spoke quietly.
I'm really sorry for being so awful.
She mumbled, still looking away. She then confessed that she had been jealous of me and had been mean to me because of it. Cheering Matt, I felt like I had gained a real sister. I thought it was sweet and honest of her to take the handkerchief I offered and wipe away her tears and nose. I felt a bit relieved to see this new side of Alice. But if I said that, she'd probably never speak to me again. Besides, thinking that the distance between us might have closed a bit. I tried to strike up various conversations on the way home.
Don't get ahead of yourself.
That evening, dinner's ready. As I set the table, Alice was the first to come in. She silently helped me with the table settings.
When I thanked her, she simply said it's no big deal.
But even that was a significant step forward. The rain had finally stopped, and the sun was shining brightly. Our wedding day was clear and sunny. As I was getting ready in my dress, Mom and Dad looked at me with a mix of excitement and a touch of sadness.
Maya, you look beautiful.
Mom gently touched my cheek while Dad was crying out my name next to her.
Dad, you're so loud, I said, trying to calm him down with Mom.
We cherished these family moments. Soon it was time for the ceremony, and Mom and Dad left to make other preparations. But alone in the dressing room, I was lost in memories when there was a knock at the door.
Come in.
I turned around to see Alice standing there. I wondered if something was missing or wrong. My mind racing, but Alice chuckled.
Oh, you look beautiful.
She said just that and left the room. But back down, relieved and smiling at the thought that the distance between Alice and me was slowly but surely closing.
Aya, you're stunning.
I was surprised to find Martin sitting in front of me, and we both burst into laughter. So much has happened. It felt long, but also like a blink of an eye. I believe this is just the beginning. I don't know what lies ahead, but I feel like everything will be okay.
As shall we go?
Martin extended his hand, and it felt like I could go anywhere with him. The spring sunlight filled the room. The faint background music from the TV and the rhythmic sound of chopping vegetables flowed through the air. The clock showed it was past noon. Just need to prepare the salad and we're perfect. Crash. I was startled by a loud noise while preparing lunch. Rushing to the living room, I found Martin had deliberately fallen over, surrounded by scattered blocks.
Oh, and loses.
I wished this happy scene could last forever. What are you guys doing? Lunch is almost ready. At my words, they both started cleaning up. The doorbell rang, and when I opened the door, punctual Alice was there.
Here you go, she said, handing over our daughter's favorite snacks before hurriedly entering.
It's Alice.
Our daughter happily jumped into her arms, and Alice lifted her up. Adoring her, we had become like real sisters, thanks to our daughter. We're expecting our second child in June. It seems the bright days are far from over. Seriously, you gotta be kidding. Having a kid with the guy you broke up with. Oh, is it because you can't forget about me? Just thinking, maybe if you have a kid, you can't cut ties with me. You actually considered that? Hey, is that it? It's ridiculous. Looking back now, it was definitely the right decision to break up. If I'd stayed with this daydreamer, I wouldn't have the happiness I have now. Today, I want to talk about this unforgettable dark past of mine and the drama of its reversal. My name is Amy. I'm a 53-year-old housewife who finds joy in leisurely doing housework while watching the morning news. I was 38 at that time. I was living peacefully with my husband Keith, but around that time, a slight air of unease began to flow in our house. Keith started responding to my words with indifference, or rather a kind of imposing and when I tried to continue with, so you see, I'm busy, he would cut me off with. It felt dismissive, as if I was being treated harshly. He hadn't always been like this. He was more of a chatterbox who tried to make me laugh with his jokes whenever he can. But then this sudden change because it was so abrupt. I wondered if I had done something wrong, but I couldn't think of anything. Then one day, at Haitian, I noticed a faint lipstick mark on the back of a shirt Keith had put in the laundry. On the day he wore that shirt, he came home late, saying he had to work overtime. I didn't think there would be someone at Keith's all-nighter workplace. I didn't think there would be someone at Keith's all-meal workplace who would lean against him with lipstick on. If there was, that would be too weird to even imagine. Could it be a woman? I surely came to that conclusion, but it was hard to prove anything from a single lipstick stain. He could make up any excuse like bumping into someone. I decided I needed to gather more evidence and started carefully checking Keith's behavior for any signs of change. Ironically, just being a bit more observant led to a pile of evidence of infidelity showing up. For instance, Keith always got up to use the bathroom around 2 a.m. when I was asleep at night. I had never doubted him before, but it seems that he was actually making calls to a woman during that time in the bathroom. There were times when long hairs came out from the inside of his suit. Also, sometimes when I looked closely at his handkerchief, there were traces of what seemed like wiped off lipstick. The icing on the cake was when I borrowed Keith's car after a long time and found a tinted lip balm. If Keith had been using a tinted lip balm, that would be another story. But I thought this would be the most irrefutable evidence yet. It was our 10th year of marriage. the frustration of having my husband stolen by a woman out of the blue. That the pure loneliness of not wanting to be alone and the love for Keith rekindled. Is it really impossible to make amends? Is there no way to make him come back to me just once more? Is there nothing that can revive something once cooled off? The pregnancy at this timing, it's a gift from God. Needless to say, I couldn't help but think that way. We didn't have any kids. A period the monotony of our relationship might have been the reason for my husband's infidelity. So this pregnancy might change things. With that hope in my mind, I revealed my pregnancy to my husband. But then, wait, give me a break, that's just troublesome. Let's break up. I couldn't believe my ears. Well, looking back, I suppose I was naive to think he might come back to me. It's rare for a man who's been unfaithful to return. Life doesn't always play out like a TV show or a movie. But back then, I believed that we loved each other and got married, so we could surely reconcile. How could she say something like that? Even a child would be better off without a father like me. You've realized that, haven't you? Seeing my husband smirk, my heart skipped a beat. I've been cheating. Pretending not to know about my husband's affair, planning to go back to normal after the baby. It feels like I had been pushed off a cliff.
At that time, I thought if the affair comes to light, attention between us will make him not come back.
But that was a miscalculation too.
I was trying to let you catch me doing all sorts of things, but you never said a word. I'm tired of waiting. I was waiting for you to say, you can't be serious. Divorce? Thirsty, don't make it more difficult for me.
You're joking, right?
I wouldn't bother lying about something that's troublesome. My status in itself, no, I have a 24-year-old girlfriend now. I don't need a 38-year-old who's gonna gain weight from pregnancy. After saying that, my husband added, if your figure goes pear-shaped, you're out, and laughed alone.
I couldn't last at all.
Or take this. I'll pay alimony or whatever. Just sign this quickly.
What he handed over was a divorce paper. After that, I cried days and nights for 3 days straight and finally decided to sign the divorce paper when he stopped coming home. 5 years have passed since then. I was scared of getting older and being single, but luckily I remarried my old friend Troy, who also had a divorce, and we've been living modestly with our child. Dre's wife also cheated on him. He too is a survivor of a messy divorce. Being comrades who shared the same pain, living with him was very comfortable. For a year on our anniversary, he reserves a fancy restaurant, and he gives me slightly expensive gifts for my birthday. I feel cherished. I wish these days could last forever. With that in mind, we celebrated our wedding anniversary again this year. We were supposed to have a fun meal at our usual high-end restaurant. The person who grimaced at the sight of me was my ex-husband.
What are you doing here?
I couldn't help but show my disgust. What a tragedy. I unexpectedly ran into my ex-husband coming out of the restroom.
It was the business där. How would you sedan stand out at you with that bored look? I'm busy, huh?
My ex-husband's gaze strayed over my shoulder, and he strode over.
Oh, You had that kid you were pregnant with from me? That's disgusting.
He reached out and pulled at the child's hand, scrutinizing him as he said the unthinkable.
Oh, seriously, gotta be kidding. Having a kid with the guy you broke up with. Oh, is it because you can't forget about me? Or thinking maybe if you have a kid, you can't cut ties with me. You actually considered that. Hey, is that it?
That's X grinning from ear to ear, seemed to be thoroughly enjoying spinning the child around on the spot. The child's face contorted into a grimace as he wailed.
Tadbang, Mana, Tao, I'm being taken by a stranger.
Steady there. Steady there. I knew Papa. Your mom was right there. You're just as stupid as she is, said my ex.
As he finished speaking, a man over 6 feet tall appeared behind him and grabbed my ex's arm hard.
That child is mine, you know?
I couldn't help but chuckle at my ex's surprised face.
Howson this guy is Amy's new husband?
I didn't respond to my ex's question.
I don't know what you're talking about, but you can't make it a child cry and get away with it, you know?
The tall man glared at my ex. A tattoo peeked out from under his sleeve, and my ex blanched at the sight of it.
Hey, me. Stop your husband.
Oh, a woman is not my wife.
At the man's words, my ex looked surprised again, glancing back and forth between me, the man, and the crying child.
Huh? That wet. And who's this kid?
Before he knew it, my ex found his arms tied up by the man.
This man is acting suspiciously and being suspicious. Some call staff member. There's a man here harming my kid?
The man's shouting at the restaurant caused such a commotion. Oh dear, what a way to celebrate a special anniversary. I thought, but I couldn't help but smirk. It had turned out to be a good day, if only by accident.
I already wait staff. Over here, it's Bram. I saw this man forcibly grab a child's arm.
At my words, my ex's mouth fell open.
Hey, Amy, what's going on? I really don't get it.
I told my frantic ex.
I'm not his wife and that child is not mine. And certainly not yours.
But he was right behind you.
And you're standing in the narrow entrance of the restroom. As a child couldn't get in because of you. Oh, he just follows dad to the restroom, and you got in his way.
What?
Oh, you probably enjoy making fun of people, but you really need to stop jumping to conclusions. Perhaps you should be aware of your surroundings.
Shut up.
Of course, my boards probably wouldn't reach a suspicious person like you.
Again, told you. I shit and not suspicious.
Oh yeah. You're a man who approaches a random child, grabs their arm, and then starts talking baby talk saying, "I'm your daddy," isn't suspicious at all. Held you gotta be kidding him. And you have the nerve to say to the woman in front of you, your mom is over there, right? Do you still think we're a couple?
As I say this with a smirk, my ex-husband, Keith turns bright red and yells, "Stop messing with me."
However, as Keith gets louder, the man restraining him tightens his grip.
Ouch. Hey, mister. Works being Jen. Amigo. Innocent.
How are you innocent? You undeniably made our precious son cry.
That's a misunderstanding.
Or Keith to finish. I cut him off with, "The fact is you misunderstood. and laid your hands on someone else's child, right?
In response, Keith glared at me and said, You,
You I've been glared at by a suspicious person, scary. I say this in a deliberately cute voice, and it seems to rub Keith the wrong way. He starts to attempt to escape from the manuscript.
You're so deluded you even think we're still a couple. Oh, perhaps you couldn't forget about me.
I purposefully repeat the accusation Keith had made earlier. As expected, Keith becomes enraged, and sensing the danger, the man throws him to the ground and straddles his back. You really thought you could escape from me? While the man might be trying to lightly intimidate him, the tattoo adds a layer of genuine scariness. Keith must have thought this might be the end of me.
Hey, Amy. It was a misunderstanding.
And as I've said, pulling on a stranger's child's hand is not a misunderstanding at all.
I thought it was my kid.
Upon hearing Keith's childish pleading in a half-crying voice, I burst into laughter.
Play me, he's your kid when you haven't even acknowledged him. And, I haven't paid any child support.
Yeah?
Did we ever talk about recognition or child support after our divorce? Keith?
Oh, so. I wouldn't have acknowledged him even if you did.
Don't be stupid. Do I do such a thing when I'm raising a child by myself? I'd hunt you down till you pay.
But then why?
You see, the pregnancy test turned out to be a false positive. When I went to the OB/GYN, they told me I wasn't pregnant, and that solidified my decision to sign the divorce papers.
Yes, during those 3 days when we started discussing divorce and Keith didn't return home. It's true that I spent these days crying. But I knew I couldn't just divorce without understanding the full situation, especially with a child involved. So I went to the OB/GYN first. Even if we were to divorce, I wanted to get a grasp of alimony, child support, and future living expenses. I wanted to sort all these things in my mind. I even thought about enduring the hardship if it would benefit my child. But at the OB/GYN, there were no signs of pregnancy. Instead, they found a tumor in my ovaries. When I went through the surgery for the tumor, I happened to share a hospital room with the mother of my current husband. I was childhood friends with my husband, so I knew both his parents. Etchen, when he came to visit his mom at the hospital, we reunited and became close again. Fayus, I thought of my pregnancy at this time as a gift from God, meant to ensure things would work out with my husband. However, it turned out to be a blessing in disguise that led me to realize that breaking up with my husband was the right decision. It also allowed me to find someone who truly cared for me and led to the early discovery of an illness. Despite having one of my ovaries removed last year, I gave birth to a child with my current husband. Although it may seem like I've been through a lot of hardships, in reality, everything turned out to be a series of blessings for me. Upon learning everything, my ex-husband paled and muttered, "No way." I was dumped by her. But it goes without saying that I couldn't help but laugh at his realization that he was dumped. Well, a young girl wouldn't want to be with an aging man like him. At that moment, a police officer appeared. Apparently, someone from the restaurant had called him. my ex-husband was given a stern warning by the police. He managed to avoid further trouble by sincerely apologizing to the family of the child once the misunderstanding was cleared. Perhaps being thoroughly reprimanded by the police was a severe blow to him. He even came to apologize to me. My ex-husband doesn't know where I currently live, so he actually visited my parents' home and expressed his apologies to my mother. I made the worst possible exit. I was wrong, he said. Growing older, being dumped by his lover, and no longer being wanted by anyone seems to have broken his spirit. He appears to be experiencing the loneliness of not having anyone to comfort him. But even though he apologized now, I really couldn't care less. I continued to ignore my ex-husband. If we hadn't met there honestly, I would have forgotten about him long ago. On that day, we ran into each other. My current husband noticed I hadn't returned to our table for a while and came to check on me in the restroom.
But he thought this might be Amy's first and last chance to get back at her ex-husband, so he decided to watch the situation from the shadows. Of course, I would have stepped in if anything happened, but the guy who was restraining him was just so strong.
Oh, the guy. He's apparently a return. And he was a football team captain in America.
Well, that explains his strength. I wouldn't have stood a chance. I was scared, thinking he was some sort of tough guy.
Hearing this, I couldn't help but laugh along with him. I admit I wasn't strong when we got divorced. Despite everything, all I did back then was to divorce him at his request, and received a modest alimony payment from him and his lover. Things don't always go smoothly like in fairy tales, so it was impossible to get a huge alimony payment. I also didn't have the strength to resist. But I was able to finally stand my ground and speak my mind to my ex-husband, and I think that allowed me to become truly strong. Now, I can finally face my husband and my child without any guilt. Coincidentally, the day of my marriage anniversary this year became the day of my new beginning. And now my husband has become a freelance architect and has doubled his income, allowing me to quit my part-time job and enjoy my life as a stay-at-home mom. My slightly rebellious daughter grumbles when I ask her to do things, but she quietly helps out when I don't ask. Only my husband and I know about her loving nature. Although I had a late-life pregnancy and only have one daughter, our family, along with our 2 dogs, makes for quite the lively household. Despite never having children with my ex-husband, sure I was able to get pregnant with only 1 ovary and give birth even at an advanced stage with my current husband. I can't help but think this is in some way fate. The dream of marrying the special destined one that I had since I was a child came true in an unexpected way through remarriage. Just some dreamy thoughts that I entertain from time to time. And with that, I'm here cherishing the everyday happiness that is anything but ordinary,